lately. But okay, let's go ahead and start the recording. So thank you everybody for coming in today. We're going to discuss about the evolution of the Bukit Vista brand. So there's a little bit of catch up, and today I want everyone to help me a little bit on stepping on toes. It's I just came back from a road trip. My memory is like kind of wiped clean with uh, road trip memories. So if there's anything that I'm saying that's repeated, please let me know. Okay, what I'm going to do first is I'm going to kind of share a screen, and this is where I remember we were last having our discussion. It was on this particular evolutionary brand paper. But what I also know was I think I asked Nadia to go ahead and move some of our material over to CODA, where we were hoping to actually fix the transition. Our transition date is coming up soon. It's actually on Tuesday. So I think we should probably have some headway into moving that over. In addition, there's still some discussion about what was it? I don't know if this has been resolved yet, but the other issue that we saw was this arrangement. Most of the coded documentation is arranged according to squad, not to chapter level. So this might create some confusion for this particular type of discussion that we're having here. This discussion is very much a chapter type discussion that affects all the different squads. So, Gani, help direct me through some of this material so that we can understand. First, one, are we still having discussions on this particular paper, or have we moved all our discussions over to CODA already?
Um, okay, for the branding discussion, I believe it's haven't moved yet to CODA,
Okay, so there's no discussion material on
so
CODA.
we
Okay,
still use.
all right. Let me quickly just check that real quick. Okay, let's do this. Could I ask Jesslyn, would you be kind enough to just knock on Nadia and ask her to quickly attend this meeting? Because I think she was working on some of the bridging materials for this particular discussion. Yeah. Okay. While we wait for Nadia, let's go and determine a few other things. And let's see. Gani, do we currently have a meeting structure arrangement? I think I've been doing most of the chairing, but I realize the weakness to that is, well, if I'm not here, who's supposed to chair the meeting? Do we have a current management for this particular type of meeting?
For branding, we haven't established yet, but
Okay.
for awareness, yes, we have.
Okay, so
We
let's do
can.
this. I believe branding is a subchapter of awareness. Essentially, it's part of how we actually create awareness, and perhaps it's something that we should just what we call inherit. So we'll inherit the current meeting structure that we use for awareness. Gani, where can I find documentation on how we conduct meeting arrangements for awareness?
It's on the here. Okay. I copy the link
Okay.
and upload the,
Okay,
so
great.
basically the chapter and in
Ah, I
admin,
see. Okay.
and then so this one is specifically for awareness, the whole awareness, and then branding is the part of it, right? So it's supposed to
Understood.
be located around that.
Okay, let's go ahead and take a look at this. So, awareness, okay, right here, right?
Yeah,
Is
so
that
we
correct?
need to create new subpage that's
Okay,
specifically.
let's do that
Uh,
then. Let's do this. Okay, so, Gunny, who do you think you would like to delegate to right now to help us create the new subpage?
mm, could be Jocelyn.
Okay, Jesslyn. Okay, have Jesslyn first. Have we notified Nadia that she can come here to the? Have we invited her to this meeting yet, Jesslyn?
I've slacked her just now,
Okay,
but I
great.
haven't had a reply.
Okay, no worries. We'll wait for Nadia to respond. Okay.
Oh
Second
yeah.
thing, Justin, would you be okay to come over to this side? I will share the link here on. Okay, wait. Oh, interesting. There's a few new features on Whereby. It automatically launches picture in picture. Okay. Anyhow, I'm just commenting on some of the new features that I see happening on Whereby. Okay, Jocelyn, would you be able to open that up and please grace us with a new subpage for specifically branding and copywriting? I think that is correct. That does actually belong in this particular section of CODA. Okay, once we have it, let's go to Gani. Gani, what? Okay, this is important, everybody. This is a really, really strong concept I want everyone to understand. The concept is called inheritance. Okay, inheritance is a way that software programmers reduce the amount of work that they need to repeat. Broadly stated, it's just templating. Okay, so what we should do is if we create a new subpage, ask yourself the question, is there another subpage whose structure we can inherit, whose structure we can adopt? So we don't need to kind of start always on scratch. Let me go to Gani. Gani, was that what you were about to say?
Okay. First thing first, we can use apa namanya, the awareness chapter discussion template. We can use that template
Okay,
into branding discussion.
excellent. Okay.
Of that, and the second is by looking the amount of members that attend this meeting, it's always decreasing, and I always marketing chapter that have a really passionate about it. So need to what's called merangkul the other chapter as well. So I
Hmm,
think the the timing it's clash with other meetings, sir. So
okay,
I take a
understood.
look. Yeah.
Okay, excellent. Let's go ahead and do this, Jesselyn. So let's lay down the first layer of structure that we need in order to have effective meetings here on CODA. So I suggest that what the first thing we can do is just to copy this top level structure and move the top level structure that we have here in the awareness discussion now over to branding and copywriting. Okay, Jesselyn, did you have something to say on top of that?
Yeah, I think I should have mentioned this earlier, but last week I believe we discussed about the fate of the Dropbox paper. I think Kanadia mentioned that since the Dropbox paper is more for the discussion and the results are the guidelines. I think we decided last week that discussions would stay in Dropbox paper, but the result of the discussion, like the new guidelines, would be made into the CODA version of the guideline. I think it was mentioned. Wait,
Okay,
uh,
let's go ahead and do this, Jesselyn. So let's go ahead and put in the structure that we just discussed about the discussions, and then put that as a second topic of discussion in addition to what Gani just said. Okay. So the first topic of discussion that we're going to have is the issue of, let's say, decreasing membership in this particular group, and the second discussion is whether or not we should keep the discussions on Dropbox paper or on this. The reason why I'm going to put it here is because we need to make a decision, right? Nadia isn't here right now, so if we don't make a decision, we won't be able to go any particular direction. But by putting it here, we're also being consistent with what we're doing in the awareness chapter discussion, which is also here, right? So what I've seen so far is that it seems like the consistency is to put the discussions in CODA. Now, if we find out that there's something else that we should consider, let's start at least with that discussion here. What I can see is, yes, it does seem like we have recent discussions from at least the very last week still on paper, which is what seems to be concurrent with what Nadia had discussed. Um, this is normal right now. This discussion and debate about where to have discussions is seemingly everywhere in the company. There's a few new updates, so I'll share these updates with you. One of the issues that we found previously is that you can have this type of discussion on paper where everyone tags their name and they respond to a certain thing, which provides kind of a clean, but it's a manual way to actually create a discussion thread. Now, on CODA, before we knew how to use CODA, we thought we would do the same on CODA. We would just, kind of keep this particular structure. What we have since discovered, what we've newly discovered, is that the correct way to actually engage in a CODA discussion is slightly different. The correct way to engage on a CODA discussion is actually like this. Let me see if I can illustrate to everybody. So this row represents a data point in CODA, right? So it's just the columns and essentially the discussion topic. The way that you're supposed to actually have a discussion here is not to put more content in the discussion box. The way to have a discussion is to put comments down here on the topic. So what that means, everyone, is actually the discussion is just the initial. We should change the heading here. So instead of discussion, it just should be background on the topic. Okay. So we just lay down the background on the topic, and the actual discussion will happen in the commentary thread. This has many benefits, everybody, because normal discussion threads, the computers do not actually understand that it's a discussion thread. They just see it as a box with a bunch of comments being put down willy-nilly by a bunch of people. Now, if we want to analyze these comments later or just understand who said what, it becomes very difficult to do that because it's not really data friendly. So if we actually do this change in the future, which is we will change essentially the discussion topic to be background. Okay, so the background is the person who initiates the discussion topic will talk about what they think is the issue and what is the background regarding this particular issue, right? So it can be, let's say, in this particular case, Gani brings up this particular issue. What is the overall performance? What is not going good? And then he can set up the basic background. Now, Bella, and I guess Bella in this particular case would be the first to then put her comment in this particular row of discussion. And therefore, everybody would then be able to see and understand that the first engagement on this discussion was started by Bella as a comment. And then other people can comment back on what Bella said, or they can comment back to Gani as the originator of this particular topic. Okay, that then is a better way to actually conduct discussions and a more enhanced way than using Dropbox paper. So based on this new particular knowledge, we have decided that using CODA correctly now will actually be a more conducive way for us to use discussions. Does that make sense for everybody? Yeah? Okay. All right, cool. So that's something new we discovered. This was, I think, found out last Friday. So perhaps the discussion has evolved. All right, let's go ahead and let's not lose track of anything. Let's go back to this branding and copy discussion. So yes, all right, Jesslyn, this is where we need to fill that particular background in. Jesslyn, if you would be kind enough to go ahead and put that background. And what I'd like you to do after you put in the background is to tag Nadia and ask her, Nadia, what do you think about this? Okay. And then we can go about our business. Okay, great. I'm going to start a new topic of discussion, which is it's fundamentally, again, one of administration, but administration right now is pretty important because we are in a period of transition. So the next issue of administration that I'd like to start is how do I add a new topic? Oh, I go like this, right? Okay. Something's not quite right here, everybody. So let's go ahead and take a look at this. Gani, I don't like the way that this particular table is inputting new data. One, because it is inputting new rows at the very bottom, and that is not good. We always want like a stack pushing it down, right? We don't want something pushing from the top, from the bottom down. So the other question is, don't we have particular forms where people can put in new discussion topics? Like I think we've seen this in other chapters before. Let me give you an example. I think just earlier in the employee stack, right? Let's go to employee. Oh, well, before I go to give an example, Gani, are you aware of what I mean by how the form generation works?
Yeah. So on the other page, so we use the data filter, date filter. So
Mhm.
when you put the date by today, so it's supposed to be short descending.
Okay.
Yeah. So on the left column is supposed to be the date, right? And then we need to set up the column to be able to sort. So when we add new column, it's always on the top.
Okay, understood. Yanni, but that's still very manual. The system I'm talking about is like this, right? So this is the employee funnel meeting structure on CODA. And everybody, this is what we mean by inheritance. So instead of always reinventing the wheel, coming up with our own system, there are essentially systems that are already built, and we can probably just inherit their properties. So one of the things I see that's very helpful here is this button. Can everyone see
Oh,
that? Add new topic. So when you add a new topic, what happens automatically is that a form pops out, automatically putting in the date, and we just put in, essentially, we just fill that in. After you fill that in, the new topic will emerge as a row onto the table. So let's go back and ask ourselves this particular question. Gani, do you think that this particular feature can be added to the way that we do awareness discussions?
yes, yes, but needs more apa ya, discovery. So I need to take a look on the
Oh, I see. Okay.
every
All right.
feature.
Let's do this then. So this is actually another challenge I've noticed, that we have to kind of jump around. So awareness, Book of Vista Library. I think we're in guidelines of guidelines, right? Whoops, sorry. I'm uh, I'm navigating here. Okay, I think we're in guidelines of guidelines. Oops, we're not in guidelines of guidelines. So I'm lost. Gunny, this is okay. Being lost is great. It's a way for all of us who are trying to learn to use CODA to experience what being lost looks like. Let's try to find our way back and fail fast. So, in this particular case, Gunny, where would I go to find myself back to the awareness paper?
On the let's see, uh, the
Oh,
chapter anti management. Chapter
okay,
anti
team management. Let's go into team management and see if we have that. We have chapter in team management. Okay, great.
Yes, then
There it is.
awareness.
Okay, chapter in team management. Okay, everybody. So apparently, what we have also discovered right now is that the chapter material is in this particular folder. Okay, so back to what we had discussed before. One of the confusions of using the new CODA system is that most of the guidelines are written and organized according to top level squads, right? Employee squad, partnership squad, guest squad, these type of formats. But now what we have discovered also is that the chapter material is kind of embedded at this level. It's embedded inside team management, and within team management, it is embedded within chapter and team management, and within that, it's embedded within the awareness. Okay, great. So let's go back to this branding and copywriting discussion here. So perhaps now it's time to open a third topic, Jesslyn. Okay, so Jesslyn, I'll let you open a third topic and we can put in the particular question here, which is there a way we can add buttons to this particular form such that we can auto generate the discussion topics like the way we do on the employee awareness discussion? I'm going to take a look here and just quickly explore if there's a way to do it. And there seems to be, everybody. There's published forms. Let's go ahead and see if we click into public forms, can we actually create a new thing? Yes, it seems like we can create a new form. And we just need to create the link. And okay, link copied and done. And let me see if I can just copy the link here. Whoops. Wait. Let's wait for the magic to happen. Is it going to work with me, or is it gonna make me look silly? I don't know. We'll see. Okay. So anyway, while we wait for the new form to fill, let's still use our manual way. Is there a way to add a discussion here? All right, Jesslyn, let's delegate this to somebody. Let's put it on Gani's plate for now, right? So we'll go ahead and tag Gani, but let's do it the correct way, right? Let's go over here, and as Jesslyn, just go ahead and put in the date and tag Gani using the comment section here to create that discussion. Okay. All right. Fantastic. Let's go ahead and see. Whoops. Looks like I failed here on adding this particular form. So what I'll do is I will go, I'm confused, and then I'll delete it. I'll go back to where I was before. Okay. Now Gani will pick up where I failed and hopefully be able to figure out how this is done. Okay. All right. Great. So we have moved that topic to the very top. And okay, next topic, which is another formatting issue. Let's not forget some of the structure that we actually were bringing over from the previous slide. Now, we have this particular conclusion structure that we've inherited from paper, which is every type of conclusion should result in either adding to a guideline, removing a guideline, improving a guideline, not changing a guideline, or agreeing that we have no decision, or it should result in some sort of follow-up. Now, let me ask, we do you believe that we should actually use the same type of conclusion structure in the new format on CODA?
Yeah, I think so. So that we are not going to really confuse
Okay, very
and
good.
to new things again. I mean,
Very good. Okay, all right, let's go to Huiying. What do you think? Do you agree, disagree? What are your thoughts on using this existing structure that we have in conclusions and transferring it over to CODA? Oh, hey, we're unable to hear you, or I'm unable to hear you. Might want to check your microphone for a
We
sec.
can't hear her as well.
Oh, okay.
Can you hear me?
Sure.
Yes, I can hear you
The
now.
option.
Fantastic. Quick.
Okay, I'm sorry. So I agree with the checklist
Mhm.
where we can put in the next action that we can do after discussing the problems,
Okay.
and also we can include like the due date for the next action that we are going to do. So
Excellent.
there is, yeah.
Excellent. Okay, fantastic. Now that then goes back up to structure again, Gani, right? So in this particular structure, Gani, once again, are we able to add a checklist to a particular column?
Yes, yes. So I'm in the middle of creating format. So the option was first add guideline, and the second is sorry, what is it?
Mhm.
Second is remove guideline. Okay, remove guide. Ah,
Oh, wow. Oh, wow. Oh, I didn't know you could do that. You could change the way that you're. Ooh, that's so cool. Okay. All right. Anyway, sorry for nerding out. Thank you, Nadi, for joining us. Fantastic. Gunny. Okay, so let's go ahead and maybe what we can do now is add another topic, right? Jesslyn. So, Jesslyn, if you'll be so kind, could you add a fourth topic, which is how do we actually add checklists to the conclusion section reflecting what we had previously done on Dropbox paper so that we can reduce the amount of confusion, like we said, and increase the amount of certainty that we have for our conversation. So, okay, that can be the next particular topic. Bella, oh, that's Bella. I thought it was Nadia. Okay, welcome, Bella. How you doing?
I'm good.
Okay, fantastic. Welcome.
Yeah,
Okay, so today we're doing some administration. This is the process of moving our subchapters discussion over to CODA. So we're developing some new habits, and also we're thinking about how to structure this page here. Okay, sounds good. So we have okay, a few of these topics here. Let's keep on making more topics, which is something that we do good at. Jesslyn, I think the next topic that we need to, this is a more serious topic, right? This is not so much administration, this is more strategical. So the topic needs to be this: how do we actually get input into this particular chapter for things that we need to look at? Remember, the purpose of having this chapter is to create the tools, to also check for the inspection if the tools are being used, but also to inspect pieces of work that are happening around copywriting and branding to make sure that they are in compliance with the tools that we've created. Now, currently, we ask the people in this chapter to go and collect examples of what they're seeing. There's good points to that, but there's bad points to that. Let's go over to Huiying. Huiying, what is the benefit of asking the people in this chapter to look for information and content to inspect? And what could be some of the drawbacks to that particular process that we're doing right now?
We can know what we did right and what we did wrong for our content that we created.
Okay, very good. Excellent. So Huiying thinks that we can bring the content that we create and have the rest of the members of this group inspect that. Okay, great. Let's go to Wee. Wee, what do you think are some of the pros and what are some of the cons with the current process of asking people in this chapter to go and look for content that's on brand and off brand?
so that the process, so that we can always follow the guidelines.
Okay, good.
Yeah, to create more awareness. I don't think there's cons on this.
Okay, all right. So we doesn't see any cons yet. Let's go over to Gani. Gani, would you see any pros or cons with the current process of how we inspect material from the company?
Um, the drawback, the only drawback that I can see is the inspection part. I mean, people aware that we have a brand book, we have a guideline, but no one reminds them. So this is the way we come up together, right? But as you can see, the another problem is no one coming from no one from cognitive
Ah, I
finance.
see. I see. Okay, interesting.
So,
Well, let's examine what the current inspection is. So, Gani, what you brought up is correct, right? So, somebody needs to go and inspect if the work that is being done across the entire company is actually on brand or off brand. The current process that we do that is we ask everybody in this chapter to go out and collect materials that they see
yeah,
that is
yeah.
on brand and off brand. So the discussion isn't so much about whether or not we are effective or the people who are. The question is this inspection process, the aspect of everybody going from this chapter to go and collect material, is that is that something great or is there room for improvement? Now,
Okay.
as we and Huiying said, this process is necessary because if we don't do this process, then there are going to be even more off-brand and non-copywriting material, right? But then the question always comes back to this: is this the best process that we have? Is this tool been fully optimized? Let's go to Gani again for consideration.
Okay. The way we collect the material process, I think it's already great.
Okay.
But once again, need apa ya, the discipline is what's called
Okay.
the discipline every chapter to
Correct.
follow it.
Correct. Okay, so we need to make sure that we're executing it correctly. And part of having this meeting, everybody, is the process of actually making sure that we're executing correctly. There's two factors I think that are really important we need to take a look at, right? One is actually having a smaller group of people a good thing or a bad thing, right? We need to actually ask what should be the maximum size of this particular meeting. Let's go with one case. If we did ask everybody in the company who had every access to content to all come and bring material to be reviewed, that could result in issues. We just have too many things to review during the 1 hour that we have together. And then we would have to tell everybody about this administration and all that. So that's a lot of overhead. So that might or might not be a good system, even by having everybody come in. Now, in the future, Gani, what the one of the purposes to actually having this particular type of chapter meeting is also, remember, strategically, is to reduce the bottlenecks in the company for content creation. As let's say a marketing group, as a marketing team, you should not be the sole creator of marketing content because then every piece of execution has to go through you or we. Ideally, you should be more of a marketing editor. So an editor just inspects and makes sure does this content actually abide by the correct principles. Let's take a look and just imagine a simple business case. Let's go to Jesslyn. Jesslyn, does McDonald's, as an analogy here, does McDonald's actually manage and own every single restaurant that says McDonald's on it?
I believe they own the brand, but the each shop it's like a franchise, so there's a different person running it, but they have to follow the guidelines set by McDonald's.
Correct. If McDonald's wanted to own and manage every single McDonald's in the world, do you think that they would have the capacity to do so? No, right?
No.
Okay, so Gani, this is what we call a way of franchising and expanding and scaling a particular workflow. So there's no way that the editor of a newspaper can actually go and produce every single content for that newspaper. There's no way for McDonald's to manage and own every single McDonald's in the world. The only thing that they can do is that they keep track of the inspection. They teach, they inspect, and they make sure that all the burgers and french fries and whatever are actually made according to the guidelines and standards that McDonald's vets. That is what a brand actually is, right? It's not necessarily that every creation is created by the brand originator. It is that every creation is inspected and made sure that it fulfills the brand guideline. So the benefit to that is that it expands your capability, your power and you don't have to be the bottleneck. So that's one thing I think we need to keep in mind. Okay, so we have these two considerations. Having too many people to this meeting adds perhaps difficulty, but maybe not having enough people to this meeting also weakens the brand because we're not inspecting what they're doing. So what it comes down to is this particular question. Is the current process where everybody goes out, inspects everything, brings it back in, is that the best particular process, right? Are we even the best particular people to go and collect this material and bring it back? Do we have a client that we could delegate this work to, that would tell us when they saw something that was off brand or not? Let's go to Gunny. What do you think about that?
Okay. Interesting about the client. Yeah. So, what I'm thinking, if we separate two smaller group, so marketing with community, marketing with PR, marketing with on the guest funnel. So we separate into its squad, and then we teach them. So
Okay.
me have some discussion with, for example, in charge in community, Amin Indra. So I teach him to follow this guideline, and please do it for your squad. And
Okay,
then
very good.
I jump over to Bella. So Bella and Ersha, please follow this guideline, and then please do inspection on your squad. So something like that.
Okay, all right. So you're thinking of ways to actually create delegates then, right, Gunny? You're thinking who are going to be your brand delegates. Very good. That's excellent. So that's a way of franchising. So think of like who is going to essentially be the guardians of the brand within each particular squad. And that way you've reduced the amount of work that you need to do. So you don't inspect the content, you inspect the inspector, right? You make sure that the person who's inspecting is actually doing the right thing. That's great. Okay, so that's one particular option. Jesselyn, let's go ahead and put that option in our particular discussion about this. The other thing is also this, right? Remember, I think at some point I talked about this tree structure, right? And this goes back to a piece of discussion that I think we had at some point, which is where's the tree structure? Okay, let's say this, right? So this is essentially, let's say, a tree structure. And I think I reminded everybody about this at one point. A lot of times people go and they say, Jing, you're talking about something too abstract. We don't understand. It's not specific enough. But then I asked myself, is that because I'm not specific enough? Or is it because the person listening isn't understanding clearly enough? Now, it could be both, right? So let's take a look. If I'm talking about something that isn't specific enough, could it be that I'm talking about the root issue, right? And this person is focusing on the leaf issue. Now, this is something we need to do better as a company, because let's just pretend that this is the root cause and it affects the guest, partner, and employee funnels, right? It affects all three squads. Okay, within each particular squad, there are specific situations that might happen that don't happen in the other teams, right? So let's say, I don't know, you do partnership branding and you will be talking maybe on, maybe you'll be talking in a Facebook group, right? And that type of situation would never happen for guests. We very rarely would actually engage in Facebook groups. Okay, let's just pretend. I know sometimes it happens, but let's just say Facebook groups. So then, are the situations different, or do they actually have a root cause? So, Yanni, this then comes to this idea of prioritizing what these discussions are for. Ideally, branding discussions, we should be talking about what are the root principles, and then we leave the rest of the teams to understand and then apply the root principle to their particular squad. So let's say a particular root principle could be not understanding brand persona, right? Using the wrong brand persona to actually, talk. Now, we also understand that within Bukit Vista, we have three different types of personas for the guest, partner, and for the employee too as well. But we know that within each persona, there's some things like the tone of voice, the background, the playfulness. These are consistent across each of the different personas on each of the different squads and user funnels. So at this discussion, we would just talk about those things. What is the tone of voice that is applicable to all Bukit Vista personas? What is the playfulness that we're trying to exhibit? So that then becomes the kind of like the root that we would want to discuss. That then becomes the filter then, Gani, for what kind of content should reach this particular discussion. If that particular discussion is something that is very, very user specific, right? Then you need to delegate that discussion to happen within the franchise level, right? Within your delegate level. So you listen to it and you go, you know what? That particular is very, very specific. That would only happen within the guest funnel, or that's a branding situation that would only happen within the partnership funnel. Then that's something that your delegate would manage and teach and educate, right? But if it's something that would happen across all funnels, that would happen across all users, then those type of discussions should come here. Okay, so let's establish that then as part of our discussion, that we are learning now how to prioritize what discussions we need to have in this particular subchapter. Okay. Um, okay. So let's keep on going. Decreasing members of brand and how do we find content? Okay. So Jessalyn, let's go ahead and just kind of put that in the background. We're going to find content that is the highest priority to discuss, is the things that affect all the different chapters. Okay. Now let's think about the discovery process. All right. So as we go on into the future, and as we look across the tree, there's probably going to be a lot of material bubbling up through the tree, right? People are going to find all kinds of situations where, is this on brand? Is this not on brand? Blah, blah, blah. I made a video. Is this on brand? Is this off brand? So then we need to have a second prioritization, everyone. So the first prioritization is we ask, does this affect all the user funnels? Yes? Okay, then we can discuss it here. The second is, which topic should we discuss about, right? There could be many. And the challenge, I think, recently has been we never have enough time, right, to really finish all the discussions that we need for all the cases that we see. So let's try to develop that. Let's go to Huiying. Huiying, what suggestion would you like to make on how we can prioritize discussions that arrive to this particular group? How do we say, okay, this needs to kind of be addressed first?
I'm thinking of instead of we find older content that to inspect whether it's on brand or not. How about we give the content that we will be going to post to
Excellent.
be inspected.
Okay, very good, very good. All right, I like that. That is a pretty interesting method. Let's go to Jessalyn. Wait, I've contaminated the discussion by placing my opinion, but I did really like that. So let's go to Jessalyn. Jessalyn, you're free to disagree with either me or Huiying, but what do you think of that particular idea?
I do agree that instead of inspecting the older content, we should just try to to plan what we're going to make in the future. But
Right.
the issue would be it would be a lot of work to this one person who is in charge of all the knowledge and discussion, because then everyone would refer to that person, and I don't know, it would be complicated, no?
Okay, so we need to think of a process then. Okay, so everybody. Okay, so we're thinking of prioritization. This particular idea of bringing the newest content here is going to happen. So then I think, Justin, we need to create a self-service model, right? So that anybody who wants to post something can do it, and they can do it right here, right? By clicking on a button and writing what is the particular issue that they're facing, and then putting all that information there, and then essentially leaving it here, or tagging somebody if it's more urgent and saying, hey, can you give us advice on whether or not this is on guideline or off guideline, right? So it goes back to one of our previous discussions, right? The quicker we can set up a self-service model, the more easily, Jessalyn, I think that particular issue can be managed. Am I correct, Jessalyn? Would that help manage? So we delegate essentially self-service. Bring your issue. It's very American. I realize in America, everything's self-service. You want a soda? The machine's over there. You get your own soda, right? You want ketchup, mustard, whatever, you go and there's a machine that gets you your own thing. I remember in Indonesia, every time you need something, you need to ask the waiter, can you get me this? Can you get me this? But here, you can have a self-service model. So as long as we create a system that allows for self-service, then we don't create any information bottlenecks where somebody has to, do whatever. But once we create self-service, we might create information overload, right? We have 10 people who wrote 3 things apiece. We have 30 topics now. So then we have to sort out what is important. Okay. So the first sort is we say, is this relevant to all the squads? If it is, we'll keep it. Okay. Second sort could be the timing. All right. If it's newer, it's about to go out, then we focus on that. Okay. I like that particular idea, Hui, for certain channels. Not for all channels, but for certain channels. Gani, which channels can we do that, and which channels should we not do that? Which channels should we prioritize new or unpublished content, and which channels do we need to think about it in a different way?
Mm, okay, I'm thinking different ways.
Okay.
So since we purchased Canva Pro for
Mhm.
Bukit Vista, so I think me and Nadia have published some sort of a system. So we collect the folder. So this one is partnership, guest, and employee. So each folder have example of content, right, Bella? So for PR post, okay,
Excellent.
thing like that, and we also have a brand kit. So which which color, which font that we will use, but it's need to reset up again since we just purchased on the Bukit Vista account. But
Okay.
previously we have been correct.
Okay, great. So that's a slightly different discussion, everyone, right? So what Gani's talking about is he's going to enhance the tool so that it almost makes it easier to not create content that's off guideline, because essentially the examples are going to be there and the tools have been limited in a way that reduces off guideline choices, right? So the font is fixed, the colors are fixed, and you just use the existing palette that has
Yeah.
been set up for content creation. Okay, slightly different discussion. And perhaps Jesslyn, we can probably put that in as a new topic as well. All right. So that it's a discussion. We kind of floated a new idea there, but let's go ahead and tag that new idea, put it in there, which is how are we going to manage this new particular Canva into our workflow. Okay. But let's still go back to okay, understood. Let's go back to the original idea, right, which is this idea of prioritization. So we have some channels where Huing's idea, I think it was Huing's idea, but emphasizing the most recent or the content that we'll publish, right? That works, but for certain channels. But there's other channels maybe that might not be the best idea. What are your thoughts, Hui? Which channels work really well for inspecting work that is the most recent or will be published?
Maybe the we should prioritize like for employee, but for like searching a job seeker. I mean for the new employee that's going to join us,
But why should we do
and
that?
then because they they're going to understand what's our brand,
Okay.
how is our brand. Yeah.
But why should we prioritize the employee funnel at this point? We have a guest mission right now, right? We are trying to
Yeah,
transfer a number of guests. So which particular user, which particular audience should receive prioritization?
yeah, but the second one that I'm going to say is the guest funnel.
Okay.
So
Okay, fantastic. Okay, so we thinks of it as essentially, so this isn't channel. Let's be specific, everybody, on what we mean by language, okay? So what you just said was not channel, but was more related to the audience, okay? So we suggested that we prioritize according to an audience and perhaps the employees before the guests. Okay, that's an interesting idea, but let's go back to this idea of channel. Let's see if anyone gets it. Let's go back to Hui Ying. I agree with you on, let's say content that we need to publish, right? But which channels should we prioritize, and which channels should we not prioritize using that method?
I think a channel like Instagram is not going to be prioritized because we post constantly on Instagram, and it will be hard if every time when Jesly needs to post something on Instagram and she has to like ask for the inspection first here.
Okay, good point. Okay, so let's also clarify this. For the most part, this particular group is inspecting work where you are not sure whether something should be there, or we have people who are inspecting just work in general, right? If you're not sure and you don't know, so this is kind of like a support group, right? You should not put everything that you plan to publish into this group, because that would just create a lot of noise that would be very, very hard to see what we need to prioritize. Okay. All right. I'll tell you guys where I think it is. Okay. Social media, right? Things where essentially old content doesn't really matter because nobody remembers what your old content is anyway. Who remembers what we posted on Instagram a month ago? Hard to remember, right? So things like that, things that have a very short lifespan, Instagram, Facebook, these are the type of material that you can bring. I disagree with Hui Ying. This is the type of material you can bring for inspection here, because that is essentially old material you don't need to prioritize anymore. That one's already done. That's for fast moving channels. Okay, slow moving channels like website, like these type of things, the website, blog posts, these are essentially, they don't change very much and they stay kind of static, and the organic reach and the constant traffic always comes, right? These, you should probably look at the older content first, right? Because you're not going to produce too much newer content on a website or on a blog or whatever. So here's the other way I would think of it. We should probably prioritize the brand based on wherever the brand exposure is the most. Okay? Makes sense, right? So if you think about where is the brand normally being consumed the most? Let's go to Gani. Guess. Gani, where is the brand being consumed the most? What is our highest surface area of the brand?
Okay, this question is more clear right now. So previously I still doesn't get it. Okay, the most exposed, yeah. I think by looking at the number, I think still Instagram, sir.
No! No!
In terms of numbers, sir.
No!
In terms of, but the first, I think like between Instagram or Facebook, sir. By
No!
what?
I got it. Okay. All right. Everyone. It's a myth. It's a myth. It's a misunderstanding. The place where the brand is the most exposed is on the OTAs. Okay, because the OTAs have the most amount of traffic. Remember, if you look at the BI reports, right, the OTA traffic is usually in the tens to hundreds of thousands per month, right? It's ginormous because the OTAs are sending our things out everywhere. For social media, is always a bit less, and for email and web, actually the website, I don't know. I think the website might even have more views than Instagram, right? So generally, I believe this is where we probably need to do our research, Gani, and also make sure. Way I remember it from BI reports from a long time ago, OTAs is where we have the most exposure. Our 10 Airbnb accounts, I think, get somewhere around millions of views a year. So that's quite significant. After that, I think is maybe Instagram or website. We need to determine that. And after that, it's probably like outreach, email, these type of things. So we need to then take a look carefully at where our brands are being represented across each particular channel, because that is how we then prioritize where we need to fix the brand first. If we're strong on a low volume channel, then that doesn't make a lot of sense, right? It means that very few people actually understand your brand correctly, but a lot of people understand your brand incorrectly, right? That's probably not the way we should do it. Okay. So my suggestion is that we use these two elements as a way of prioritizing the discussions. One, is this discussion relevant to all the different user funnels? Yes? Okay. All right. Then let's rank it according to each particular channel. Is this in a channel that affects a lot of users? Okay. If it is, then let's prioritize that. And then according to we, is the user a high priority this particular month? Are we focusing on employees, partners, or guests? And based on that, we can then determine which type of discussion we should have first. We'll never really finish. As you can see, we had a pretty packed discussion today, and we only have 5 more minutes. So this becomes one of the things that we need to prioritize. Okay, I'm going to finish there right now before going any deeper, right? The last thing we need to do is we need to have some infrastructure here, okay? So we have a status on these particular subjects right now. Let's get this status. Let's actually ask ourselves real quick: is status the same as conclusion? No, right? Status is the status of the discussion. Is it been closed? Is it still ongoing? Is it undiscussed yet? Right. So I think we can fixate a few things. Right. Is there a way to add a new button to the discussion? The status of that, I think, should be follow up. Right. Okay. And the follow up person should be. Let's go, Jesslyn.
What, sir?
Who should follow up on this particular topic right here?
Mas
Oh.
Gani.
Right, perfect. And Jesslyn has tagged Gani on the discussion. Okay, so Gani knows that is part of his responsibility. Next, decreasing members of the brand. We didn't really discuss this, but what we have is, I guess, it's in discussion. I guess we have no decision at this point for that particular discussion, right? So could be a good thing, could be a bad thing. Maybe not concluded yet. Maybe we'll follow up again on this one. So let's see. We should decide on who should follow up this. Gani, who do you like to follow up on this particular discussion?
I'd like to follow up this one to. I think the best person is Nadia, sir.
Okay, go ahead, Gani, and comment here and ask Nadia what she thinks about this. Okay, now this one probably Nadia and me can actually have a sub discussion and then come back. And Jesslyn, I think you can organize that, right? So ask Nadia and Jane to have a sub discussion and come back. The main question we need to ask is, what is the right number of people that should come, and what is essentially the awareness that they need to have, and how do we arrange the delegates? I think Gani, we also proposed just earlier your idea of creating the sub delegates is pretty relevant. So why don't you also join us in that sub discussion, and maybe we can take that as a direction. Maybe we arrange delegates and franchisees for this particular idea. Okay. So we have a smaller discussion and then we delegate to franchisees to carry it out. All right. Checklist and CODA. So this one, I think we need to follow up. Let's go to, let's see, checklist and CODA. Gani, who do you think should be the delegate for this one?
I don't think one of us have a clear understanding on CODA, sir.
I think this is actually pretty simple, Gani. I'd like to delegate this to we, okay? There's a lot of groups already that have checklists built in to their discussions, as in the conclusions. And I think you agreed with me that it was a good idea to reduce confusion that way. Can you just simply go, oh, okay, all right, Hui Wing, if you figured it out, can we just delegate this to you and have you change the structure of this table to have checklists according to what we had just discussed, right? Add guideline, remove guideline, and such. So this one, Jesslyn, go ahead and tag Hui Ying, and I think Hui Ying can have this ready for us by the next discussion, okay? So this one, I think we can actually follow up with Hui Ying. Next, should we move the discussion to CODA? That's already been decided. It looks like, yes, we will, right? So discussion will be added to CODA. Next, how do we find content? This one is probably a follow-up discussion. Gani, who should be in this discussion?
15 hours.
What? Okay.
It's mine. Okay, so.
Okay.
Okay, cross chapters. I think it's related on the first topic.
Great. Okay, so guess what, everyone? What we can do is we can move these discussions kind of together. Can I do that? I cannot. Okay, because it's being sorted right now. So, Gani, this discussion is the same as this discussion. So what I think we can do is this. We can, Jesslyn, would you be kind enough to delete this row? Or, okay, I'll leave it up to you, Jesslyn, how you want to do it. Can you merge this row with this row? Because essentially they're the same topic, okay? And the outcome is the same. There's a sub-discussion will happen between me, Gani, and Nadia to reach a conclusion on how we prioritize and how we actually decide who needs to attend this particular meeting. Okay, done. And then Gani, this particular one about specific folders in each Canva, I think what we can do is next discussion, you give us a demo on how to use the new Canva Pro, and that will be how we all can understand the new tools. Okay, and we can probably invite everybody who is involved in content creation to that demo. All right, that's it. All right, everybody. So that's pretty much it. I think I went over time a little bit, but just 1 minute over time. But I think we have a better feeling now and understanding of where we're going to go with using CODA. We've learned some new skills, and also we've made some decisions on how to invite people to the team. Got it. Once we have done that, it's like having a party ready to invite guests. Sometimes if you invite all your guests before the party's ready, it doesn't work. And that's why they don't come back again, because it's not clear. So once we, I think, have clarified this transition, then we can add people in and decide how to prioritize topics. And then it becomes a very fruitful and meaningful experience for all the people who come in. Okay. All right. Thank you, everybody, for coming in. I think I'm going to stop here. And I think we'll go into the awareness discussion now.